There was a man by the name of Stanley. He goes to a psychiatrist. He says, "Doc, I've got big troubles. I haven't been able to sleep." He says, "Every time I get into the bed, I think there's somebody underneath it. So then I crawl under the bed and try to sleep there, but then I think someone's on top of the bed. Top, under, top, under." He said, I haven't slept in days. I need help. I'm going crazy." So the psychiatrist says, "Okay, I'm going to need to see you 3 times a week. And in about 2 years, I promise you, I will cure you of your fears." Stanley says, "Well, okay, so how much do you charge?" And the psychiatrist says, $100 a visit. Stanley says, "Okay, I'll think about it." 6 months go by. The psychiatrist runs into Stanley at a coffee shop. He says, "Hey, how come you never came back to see me?" And Stanley says, "For $100 a visit, there's no way I could do that." He says, "Besides, one of my friends cured me for $10. The psychiatrist goes, "How? What happened? What did he do? How did he do that?" And Stanley says, "He just told me to cut off the legs of my bed." Most of us deal with fears that are a lot harder to deal with or fix than that. A simple definition of fear is this: fear is the perceived loss of control. Fear is the perceived loss of control. As human beings, we all want to have and we all need to have some semblance of control in our lives. We want to feel safe. We want to feel secure. It's part of our human nature. It's a need that we have as people. But whenever we have a sense or a feeling that our control is being taken away, we react by trying to regain that control. We need to regain it. We need to take that control back. So we'll try to control our fear first, but then it turns into trying to control people or control situations or anything else. After a while, we're just trying to control any and everything. But all that leads to is anxiety. So we're in this loop of fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety. It's a loop. And I would say there are many people that are in that loop in our world today. Lots and lots of people. It would be fascinating if we could actually see the loop, because we would see that loop happening as we'd walk down the street, and we would see so many people in that loop of fear and anxiety. And so because of that, it's not surprising that many people today give up way too easily whenever they face any kind of adversity or trouble. When disappointment comes, many people just become discouraged and accept defeat. I guess my marriage is just gonna always be like this. I guess my health will always, I'll always struggle with this. I guess this is as far as my life is gonna take me. This is it. This is it for me. I guess my education, or now that I'm retired, I guess that's it. My message today is entitled "The Things That I Have Learned." Things that I've learned. And what I want to do is I want to help to get you out of that loop if you're in it. And I believe there are people here that are in that loop. I want to help you get out of that loop of fear and anxiety. And how I want to do it is I want us to look at the power of faith in adversity. The power of faith in adversity. Because this is the key to getting out of that loop of fear and anxiety. And that place of just giving up on your dreams, giving up on anything that you're wanting to accomplish with your life, no matter what situation you're in right now. So that's what I want to do today. Anybody interested? Yes. You guys want to hear this today? Yes. Or can I go home and watch Scotty Scheffler win? All right. Okay, so here we go. First thing we have to do is we have to throw out the myth, the lie, that if I do everything right, nothing bad will ever happen to me. That's a myth. That is a lie. This idea of if I do everything right, nothing bad will happen to me. That's never been true. The Bible is filled with examples of good people experiencing bad things, experiencing adversity. In fact, in our Wednesday night Bible study, right now we're studying about Joseph, and towards the end of the book of Genesis, we're studying about Joseph, who was sold into slavery at age 17 by his own brothers, and then on top of that, he gets falsely accused of something and goes to prison and spends another 13 years in prison. You look at what he says in Genesis chapter 40, verse 14. Joseph says, "But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness, mention me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this prison. I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon." He didn't do anything wrong, and yet he's in a dungeon. Bad things do happen to good people. So there are many people today who try to live by this false idea that if I do everything right, nothing bad will ever happen to me. The flip of that is people that think, because these bad things have happened to me, it must mean that I'm a bad person. That's also a myth. Because bad things do happen to good people. Jesus talks about this, and Jesus basically says to not be surprised when difficult things happen in your life. In John 16, verse 33, Jesus says this, "I have told you these things so that in me you will have peace." Anybody here want peace?
Oh, yes.
Amen? Mm-hmm. He says, "I've told you these things so that in me, in him, you may have peace. may have means it's a possibility. You don't have to have peace if you don't want it. But if you want it, you can have it in Him. He says, in this world, you will have trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world. Which is based on the previous thing. He says, I've told you these things so that in me you will have peace. Because I have overcome the world. I remember when I was growing up, I used to hate this. My mom used to say this to me all the time. But when I was growing up and I would whine about something that was going on in my life, you know, and I'd think, I don't know why this is happening to me, or, you know, and I would say that, I don't know why this is happening to me. And my mom would go, why not? I used to hate that. But that was like automatic, you know, to the point where I just stopped even saying that to her. I don't know why this is happening to me. Why not? She would say, what makes you different from anyone else? That was truth. Here's the thing. Jesus, by telling us not to be surprised by adversity, was actually giving us a gift. He was giving us a gift. There's a wisdom axiom that says expectation leads to preparation. Expectation leads to preparation. Have you ever noticed how when you expect something to happen, you can actually mentally or physically prepare for it? If someone says, hey, I'm getting ready to punch you in the stomach, guess what? You tense up, right? That's the whole concept behind weather reports. Because expectation leads to preparation. Many years ago, Luann and I went to Marine World. I don't even know if Marine World still exists.
Yes.
It does? Okay.
Six Flags.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't. My kids are grown up, so. But we went to Marine World, and at the end of the day, Luann and I decided we wanted to ride all the roller coasters. And they had all kinds of, you know, crazy roller coasters. But they had this one, like old-fashioned wooden roller coaster that was called the Roar. Yeah, sounds like they still have it. And so it's like a 10-story drop. And then they say you pull like 3.5 G's on that 10-story drop, and then it just goes all over the place. But if you've ever ridden on a wooden roller coaster, you know that it's incredibly rough. It's just, it just shakes you, and it just beats you up. Well, we have ridden enough roller coasters that we knew that was what was going to happen. We had an expectation. So we weren't surprised when we got beat up by the roller coaster, because we knew that was what we were getting in for. Expectation leads to preparation. So when Jesus says, in this world you will have trouble, that was actually a gift for us to understand, to not be surprised when trouble comes. But Jesus said in life, you will face adversity at times. You will get knocked around. You will be shaken. And sometimes you will get knocked down. But when you get knocked down, you have to learn to get back up as fast as you can. You guys that know me, you know I love the game of football. There's a tremendous life lesson in football. And it's going to be taught in football practices all over the country in just a couple months. When I played high school football in Texas, we had these things called belly flops. Some teams call them down-ups. You know, when you run in place, and then when the coach blows the whistle, you throw yourself on the ground and you pop back up. And we would do those. We hated those. But it's a tremendous life lesson. Because football, the game of football, assumes that you're going to get knocked down. In fact, if you watch a football game, you can always tell who's been playing in the game and who's been sitting on the bench. Because the people that have been playing, their uniforms are dirty because they've been knocked down. The people that are sitting on the bench, their uniforms are gleaming clean. It's a badge of honor after the game to have your uniform torn up and dirty because you were in the game. Football assumes that you're going to get knocked down. Sometimes you're going to be blindsided. You're going to be hit and you not even realize who hit you. What happened? Other times you can see the train coming. Oh, here we go. But either way, football teaches you when you get knocked down, you have to get back up as fast as you can. And that's a life lesson. Joel Osteen had a book years ago called Your Best Life Now, and he has a chapter in it entitled Getting Up on the Inside. Here's a quote from his book. He says, "You may be facing some other serious setback, and you feel as though life has caved in on top of you, knocking you off your feet and pushing you down." Anybody ever felt like that?
Right.
But the good news is you don't have to stay down. Even if you can't get up on the outside, get up on the inside. In other words, have that victor's attitude and mentality. Stay in an attitude of faith. Don't allow yourself to lapse into negative thinking, complaining, or blaming God. So how do we get up on the inside? He says it here. We get up on the inside with an attitude of faith. An attitude of faith. So what does that mean? What is faith? What is faith? Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see." That's the definition of faith. Biblical faith. And from the definition of faith, we can see that faith is built especially for adversity. It's built, custom built for adversity. Being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. If you have your Bibles, I want you to highlight the word sure and the word certain. Highlight those two words. If it's in your Bible app, highlight it. Sure and certain. In other words, you need to hear this. Faith is not just hope. Faith is not wishing. And faith is not blind. Faith is being sure of, convinced of, believing the thing that you hope for. But here's the key. Faith is based on God's promises to us. It's based on God's promises to us. Being sure and certain of God's promises to us. Now, here is how the power of faith will set you free from the loop of fear and anxiety. Now we get into the good stuff. What you've been waiting for. Drum roll, please. Here we go. So now that we have, it all starts with having a real definition of what faith is, and we see that in Hebrews 11:1. Now we just move a couple chapters later to Hebrews chapter 13. And Hebrews 13, the second half of verse 5 and verse 6 says, "And God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." So we can say with confidence, "The Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? What can man do to me?" So let's break this down. The original language, the Greek, is really insightful here for us to understand these two verses. So in the Greek, the first word translated never. So God has said, never will I leave you. That word never in the Greek is what's called a double negative. So it's never, never. So it's like he's saying, never, let me say it again, never. It's a double negative. The word leave is translated cease to sustain and uphold. Cease to sustain and uphold. So the construction is, I will not cease to sustain and uphold you. I will not cease to sustain and uphold you. in the original Greek. The next line, you see there's another never. In the Greek, it's a different word. This word is a triple negative. A triple negative. So, I will not. I will not. I will not. 3 times. And the word forsake is translated let you down, leave you in the lurch, leave you destitute or helpless or abandon you. That's a whole lot of things for one word, huh? That's what's cool about the Greek. So the construction is, I will not, I will not, I will not let you down, leave you in the lurch, leave you destitute or helpless or abandon you. Then based on that promise, I will not cease to sustain and uphold you. I will not let you down, leave you in the lurch, leave you destitute or helpless or abandon you. Based on that promise, then we read verse 6. So, based on that, based on what God has said now, we can say with confidence, the Lord is my helper. I will not, there's that will not again, I will not be afraid.
Yes.
What can mere man do to me? That's faith in action, based on the promises of God, who has said it as clearly as we could possibly ever understand it. I will not. 5 times he says, I will not let you down. I will not leave you in the lurch or not sustain you, take care of you, uphold you. All of this. When you believe God's promise for you, when you have an attitude of faith, when you're sure and certain that God is for you and that He'll never leave you or forsake you, then you can say, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. And that is the path to peace. That is the path to peace. And that is the antidote to fear and anxiety. You know, there's a man by the name of Charles Allen who wrote a book, and he tells a story in this book about something that happened at the end of World War II. As the war was drawing to a close, the Allied armies would gather orphans, and these orphans were starving, and they would gather them up and put them in camps, and they would feed them and take really good care of them. And even though the kids were well fed and taken care of, they were really having a hard time sleeping. They seemed to really be nervous and afraid, no matter how well taken care of they were. So they brought in a psychologist, and he came up with this suggestion. And what they did was they would give each of the kids a piece of bread at bedtime. And they were told, you just hold this piece of bread and then go to sleep. And they noticed that that piece of bread produced amazing results in the kids in these camps. It was because they would go to bed knowing that when they woke up, they would have food to eat. That guarantee of when I go to sleep, when I wake up, there's going to be food in my hand, help them be able to rest. When we know and we trust that God has a promise for us, that God promises to take care of us, that is the path to peace. That is the path to comfort. That is the way out of the loop of fear and anxiety. When you believe God's promise for you, when you have an attitude of faith, when you're sure and certain that God is for you, that He'll never leave you, never forsake you, then your attitude will be, whenever things get hard, you get back up. Whenever you get knocked down, you get back up. And you can say, I may have been knocked down, but I'm not going to stay down. Because God is for me. God is with me. Joel Osteen, he says, quote, no matter what you face in life, if you know how to get up on the inside, adversities cannot keep you down. I'm going to close with a story. How many of you guys have seen the movie The Sound of Music? Familiar with The Sound of Music, okay? So you're familiar with the story of the Von Trapp family. And the Von Trapp, the Trapp family ended up immigrating to the United States in 1938. And when they came to the United States, they only had $3.50 with them. They ended up living in Vermont, and they ended up, their dream was to build a lodge that was inspired by their life in Austria. So they started building this lodge, and they were almost done built with the lodge when a massive winter storm came through and destroyed the lodge. So they started over and they built this lodge, and it became famous as a place for people to come and stay, and like this big, huge, beautiful place in the woods in Vermont. It became famous, and then on December 20th, 1980, a fire burned their lodge down, killing one of the guests, injuring 7 other people. The day after the fire, in the mail, they get a rug that was made by a friend of theirs that, the rug had come, not knowing, the person that made the rug didn't know anything about the fire or whatever, but just the timing of it arrives. And this rug has this inscription in the middle of it in Latin. And in Latin, it says, nec aspera terrent. And in that in Latin is translated, "Be not terrified by adversity." Be not terrified by adversity. Literally, the rug comes the day after the lodge burns down. Well, it took 3 years, $7 million. They rebuild the lodge again for the third time. And as the lodge is rebuilt on December 18th, 1983, the day it opens, they put that rug in the lobby of their hotel. Because that they, as a family, 3 years before when they got that rug, they were like, we are going to rebuild. We are going to get up. Even though we've been knocked down twice already, we're going to get up. We're going to believe what this rug says. Be not terrified by adversity. And you go online. That lodge is still there, still open. Beautiful, amazing place in Vermont, owned by the Von Trapp family to this day. Be not terrified by adversity. Learn to get up on the inside, trusting in an attitude of faith, trusting God. I want to encourage all of you that are watching to continue to give faithfully to Celebration Church. There's so many different ways that you can do that. Of course, you can mail it in or drop by our location, which is 990 Meadowgate Road in Meta Vista, California, 95722. You can give online a couple of different ways. You can always use PayPal. Use the PayPal address of onecelebration@sbcglobal.net, or you can go to our website, our church website, which is www.ccfellowship.org. Go to the home page, go up to the About Us tab, pull that down and go to Give Now, and then there's a donate button that'll take you to our online giving page. And text giving is available as well. That's probably the fastest way to give to our church. And that is, you text the word give to area code 530-288-4500. And you can give your tithe and offering to Celebration that way as well. And always, if you're watching on our YouTube channel at Celebration Church Office, subscribe and click like.
We're so glad you decided to join us today. We hope you were blessed and encouraged. If you gave your life to Christ or want to reach out to us in any way, please email us at celebrationchurch13@gmail.com. To purchase Lou Ann Lee worship CDs and songbooks, click the links below. God bless you.